or who may be confused about what it is you're seeing, this is a CBS News special report, and rather with Connie Chung in New York, John Blackstone in Los Angeles, along with our colleagues at KCBS, who arranged this extraordinary coverage of the live police tale of what is believed to be the car carrying O.J. Simpson with his friend driving it. Now, John Blackstone's point was that because the police believe O.J. Simpson could be, maybe, might be in that car with a gun and possibly has the gun to his head. None of this confirmed, but this, if you're saying to yourself, well, as I said earlier, why don't the police just close in? The apparent reason is they're not sure what the situation is in that car. They would like to take O.J. Simpson alive, of course. There was so much speculation earlier about possible suicide attempt, so the police are being very cautious, very prudent in this situation, and trying to assess what the situation is. Now, if you're saying, well, how did the police get onto the car? Tracking the cellular telephone is the answer. Extraordinary events happened during the day. The Los Angeles police handled this case in a very, what other police departments say, unusual way. They were allowing his attorney in a murder case to make arrangements for him to come down and give himself up. In a bad check case or something, that's ordinary, but not in a murder case. Then O.J. Simpson disappeared under circumstances that are not yet altogether clear, and the police hadn't actually seen O.J. Simpson, it's believed, since the funeral of his wife yesterday. This is the first time they believe they've actually had him in sight. They do think they have him in sight. They're following this car. That's the reason we're sticking with this live coverage. John Blackstone, is there any doubt that O.J. Simpson is in the car, really? Does anyone doubt that?
I don't think so, Dan. The first word that we had from the CHP was, in fact, that they'd spoken to O.J. Simpson by telephone, or they'd spoken to someone in that car by telephone and had established that he was in the car. They have been monitoring telephone calls, we believe. They've been tracking this car from cell to cell as it drives now north on a freeway from Orange County toward Los Angeles. They've been watching this. They're pretty certain that O.J. Simpson is in this car. One would have to wonder if anyone else is in this car, why they're not paying attention to this line of police cars following them.
There are, in fact, 11 police cars following him. This is a scene that I'm sure we have seen many times on Los Angeles freeways of police chases, but this is quite extraordinary.
So no one has any misunderstanding. O.J. Simpson is now accused. He is formally charged with using a knife to kill his former wife and the male companion of his former wife, leaving the two in a pool of blood outside the former wife's condominium. And today, O.J. Simpson became a fugitive from justice in a double murder case. So what you have here is a sort of classic situation in which the police have, if you want to put it this way, cornered a double murder suspect, but it's all on the road. It's all on the fly, on a Los Angeles freeway. And the police, as is common in these situations, when, for example, they might have such a fugitive cornered in a house, they want to take him alive. They don't know what the situation is. It's feared that he may be armed, may have a gun, could kill himself in the car. So they just keep rolling along the freeway. What the resolution of this will be, how it comes out, is what we're watching and waiting now eagerly to see. Connie, I suppose there's always some chance that the police could put up a roadblock to stop the car, but that would open the possibility that O.J. Simpson, if he's armed, could take his own life.
And in fact, his lawyer, Robert Shapiro, had said that from Tuesday on, he had been exceedingly depressed, medicated and sedated, and in fact he had been under 2 doctors' care, an internist and a psychiatrist. In addition to that, his doctor had found something peculiar, a lymph node under his armpit. He was doing tests on that. He gave no more information beyond that. After the funeral of his ex-wife, which he attended with his children, he did not go home to his home. He went to a friend's home, a location which was not disclosed. And it was this morning that his lawyer received a call from the police and from the district attorney at 8:30 this morning asking his lawyer to bring O.J. Simpson in on these murder charges. The lawyer had agreed that by 11 a.m. he would in fact bring him in. So the lawyer went to where O.J. was, which was in the San Fernando Valley, at a friend's house named Robert Kardashian.
Excuse me, Connie, but right there is an indication of how unusually the police were, what an unusual way police were handling this case. O.J. Simpson was allowed, the police were ready to charge him. Instead of sending police out with a squad car, handcuffs, and bring him in, they allowed this extraordinary situation of him to be taken to a friend's house and spend hours there.
That's right. The lawyer, Shapiro, said, in fact, that he gave the police the address of where he was, gave the location, and promised that he would bring him in at 11 a.m. But, in fact, the police didn't immediately go there. They waited for the lawyer to signal the time that he should bring him in.
Connie, for just a second, let's see if we can pick up a little of the live coverage from our Los Angeles station just to get a flavor of what's going on here, and then we'll resume our commentary from New York.
Yeah, we're about a mile and a half, 2 miles behind all of the activity that Bob has been reporting on that he is flying over. Traffic is slowing down quite a bit because I believe that we're running into the tail end of that traffic break of the officers trying to keep motorists away from the procession up ahead. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 choppers in the air from our vantage point. Occasionally we can see people driving on the freeway here pointing and obviously looking, many of them not quite what's going on. We do not have the vehicles in our sight, but we can certainly see a lot of the activity and traffic slowing down, wondering what is going on up ahead.
Mary, Jim Hill is with us here now. There is a good chance that O.J. might be listening to us right now on KNX News Radio. And if so, Jim, I know you have a message for him, a personal message.
O.J., Al, if you're listening to me, if you can hear me, guys, please stop. If you can hear me, just turn on your emergency blinkers and just pull over to the side. I can't begin to tell you, O.J. and Al, how many people have called this station praying for you and wanting your safety. There are a lot of people who believe that if you two keep up with what you're doing right now, that the worst is going to happen. You do not want to be remembered as someone who ran from a bad situation. You've always
told
everyone
you're listening to is Jim Hill. He's the KCBS sportscaster.
No matter what it is.
When I was anchoring the news in Los Angeles, he was doing the sports there at that time. Excuse me.
Pull over to the side, and if you can hear my voice,
he's old friends.
Please surrender, guys. It's not going to do you any good to keep running. The more you run, the worse it's going to get. You never can solve any problems by running away from it. I've had 15 or 20 people calling here, young kids crying on the phone, telling O.J., please come in, please come back. People still love you, O.J., and they don't want to remember you going this way. They want to remember you as an individual who stood up for what you thought, who faced the consequences no matter what, and they do not want to see this happen. So please, guys, turn on your emergency blinkers, slow down, pull over to the side, and please surrender.
Just to jump in here, Jim, KNX is simulcasting our coverage, and we're just hoping that perhaps O.J. and Al Cowlings, perhaps, if he is the driver of this car, might have KNX on and be listening.
And we're also being joined by CBS Network being carried nationwide. This picture being seen in living rooms and homes across the country right now. And just to recap, police tracked down this white Ford Bronco, and they moved in. They've had a conversation with O.J. Simpson, at which time he demanded that he be allowed to go to his mother's home, which is right not too far, we're told, from where he is right now. He is in the back seat with a gun pointed to his head. He is threatening suicide unless police go along with this. At this point, police have shown no inclination whatsoever to pull him over, to stop him. They're letting this drama play out as it happens.
Jim Hill, we have understood that for much of this week, O.J. Simpson has been very depressed, and his attorney told us today he was under sedation for the last couple of days.
Yes, he was, and from the people that I had talked to that had been close to him throughout the course of the week, said that when they started talking to him, he just started crying. He would start one sentence and then just start to cry, as if to tell them or to indicate to them that he knew that maybe the worst was about to come or whatever. But, you know, there are still a lot of people, no matter how bad a situation is, there are still a lot of people who have a great deal of respect for O.J. Simpson, and they want to remember him in a positive way. And people still call and say, Jim, if you can talk to him, if you can tell him, please tell him that you are innocent until proven guilty. And that's the message that everyone wants to get with him. And we know that right now that O.J. is a man that is confused. He's a man that doesn't know exactly what's going on in his life. And it's amazing how when you get into a lot of trouble, even when you get to be an adult, the one person that you think of, the one person that you look to console you is your mother, and you always think about that. So we just hope that I just hope that O.J., that if you're listening to me, man, please, you've given so many of us.
The 405 is the one that goes by LAX. That would head them toward the city as well. All those cars are stopping to get a view. They know what's going on by listening to their radios.
At this point and see exactly
now, there's nothing, as KCAL is reporting, there's nothing you can really do here but keep this helicopter right on top of the scene.
Unusual way to end the situation.
Stay with it. They have identified this is Al Cowling's car, O.J. Simpson in the passenger seat. We have not received an affirmative that Cowlings is driving it, although that's a fairly good assumption. He's not at his house, and he is one of O.J.'s oldest friends and a former teammate. As the traffic proceeds, what you see there is normal traffic, that pickup truck and a car, but very little traffic as all these cars attuned to their radios are pulling off. The cars on the top of the screen heading east on that freeway are just slowing down to look and get a glimpse of one of the icons of American sports history, O.J. Simpson, on this tragic June day. In a city besieged with stories, when you think what can top one with another, another occurs. Again,
45 minutes at the most.
I don't know.
I'm trying to keep it as slow as possible and as low as possible in torque.
The car, of course, is not going very fast. The police are just trailing it. There are a bunch of police cars.
Kyle, I might have about 45 minutes at the absolute most left, so we're just going to keep going as long as it can.
I know. This is Larry King as we stay atop this scene. Jim Hill, famed sportscaster in Los Angeles, an old friend, a former athlete, old friend of O.J. Simpson, is going on radio in Los Angeles.
Still going westbound 91, just approaching
O.J. Simpson
freeway.
to turn himself in.
According to the lanes,
Jim Hill is going on radio in Los Angeles, appealing to O.J. Simpson to please turn himself in. He is on 91 West.
At the 91 westbound, very slow, David. Right now, I'm indicating 55 miles an hour airspeed. It could be a little bit slower down on the ground.
There's the traffic. That traffic is going east on 91. 91, if it stays, goes right out toward the water. And those are all those vehicles, the police vehicles, following this car. We have Jim Hill, an old friend of O.J.'s, former athlete and sportscaster, on the radio, hoping that O.J. is listening to the radio and begging him to turn himself in. Okay. O.J.'s mother lives in San Francisco where he grew up. There is a belief, though, that she flew to L.A. today.
We are acting.
Let's listen to this officer.
Assistance capacity at this time.
What about the report that officers, whether they be Orange County Sheriff's deputies involved or your officers from the CHP, have seen O.J. Simpson with a gun to his head in that vehicle?
Yes, I don't have any specific reports on that, the information that I have. So I can't comment on that.
But if there is perhaps a weapon or fear that there might be a weapon inside, safety has to come into play here when you're considering trying to stop a vehicle, correct?
Yes, we have, the CHP has policies for high risk and or felony stops, and the officers, if they are involved in that, will act according to policy, and they're well trained, and we go over these scenarios all the time in training. So the officers are well aware of the procedure to use in felony stops or high-risk situations.
At what speed are they going now, Officer Perry? Any idea?
I don't have that information right now. Apparently it's not a high-speed pursuit. The location is, it looks like it's westbound SR 91 at perhaps Atlantic, I believe.
Okay, we're just told now, Officer, that it's west of the 605, westbound on the 91 freeway.
I see. Okay.
This is really a case, as it has been in so many of these pursuits on Southern California freeways, perhaps waiting for the driver to run out of gas, or for, in this case, if what we've heard about O.J. Simpson with the gun, perhaps to just change his mind and pull over and end it all. I don't mean end it all in terms of O.J. Simpson. I mean end this pursuit. You're just going to wait them out, in other words.
Yes, like I say, our policy is generally to follow the pursuit, and hoping that in this case that the suspect vehicle will run out of gas and stop. Fortunately, it's not a high-speed pursuit. They're going at a relatively moderate speed, which is better than a high-speed pursuit, obviously. And if it were turn into a high-speed pursuit, CHP officers at the time would choose to either abandon the pursuit or remain in the pursuit, depending on factors that would involve safety or potential hazardous situations.
Christine, I've just noticed an extraordinary thing, and that is that there are cars. Look at those people right there waving as this Bronco goes by. They're waving at O.J. Simpson. Everybody in Southern California who has a radio or a television is certainly aware of what's going on right now. And this is a Bronco. We believe O.J. Simpson is in it, along with his longtime friend Al Cowlings, a former teammate at SC. They are westbound on the 91, and people who, of course, have been pulled over by the CHP to give this vehicle clear passage on the freeway are standing there and waving.
We are watching KTTV's coverage, that's Fox 11 in Los Angeles, of this ongoing drama of Al Cowlings' car with O.J. Simpson in it, driving west on the 91 freeway. That would put them right around, if you know L.A., Bellflower Boulevard now. This is called the Artesia Freeway, and they're heading toward Compton. Jim Hill, O.J.'s friend and sportscaster, has been on the radio. The last thing Jim said was, O.J., you were a man, you are a man, be a man, turn yourself in. Those are overpasses with crowds. Prove to the world you're still a man, turn yourself in. We have pretty much verified that O.J. is in the passenger seat in that car. We have received a report that his mother flew in from San Francisco to Los Angeles this morning, but we don't know where she is in Los Angeles. This is definitely the Al Cowling vehicle, and O.J. is in the car. The California Highway Patrol's Pete Gustafson tells CNN that O.J. appears to be holding a gun to his head. Those CHP are trailing that car. The car is not exceeding the speed limit.
If you have just joined us now, just to recap very briefly, as we watch this Ford Bronco continue westbound.
Earlier today, Robert Shapiro had arranged for O.J. to turn himself in. Doctors were in attendance. They were all going to go together in a car because they were worried about suicide. When they went downstairs from a conference room at O.J.'s house, he was gone. Shapiro did not hear again from him. We then had a press conference later in which Shapiro announced that O.J. had written seal letters to his mother, to his children, had codified the will. That means might have changed and added to and had the will certified, in which O.J. said such things as, "I have nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her. Recently, we've come to our understanding. For now, we're not right for each other. It was tough splitting." But then it goes on in a rambling account saying goodbye to people and saying he was pretty much at the end. It certainly reads like a suicide note.
11:45 was the next time he was supposed to do it. He didn't do it. And then the all-points bulletin went out. O.J. Simpson has been missing now for about 7.5 hours as this relatively low-speed pursuit goes on. You heard the CHP officer.
Vince Evans, quarterback with the L.A. Raiders, the ageless Vince Evans, is now crying. He is on the radio pleading with his friend O.J. to please give himself up. Vince Evans, the well-traveled quarterback in the National Football League, is now on the radio begging O.J. to give himself up as the car with O.J. in it passes some other passenger cars on California Interstate 91. That's the Artesia Freeway. That will, coming toward the 710 freeway, is where the next big freeway they'd connect with. If they stay on 91, they're heading toward the ocean going that way. On a direct line toward Manhattan Beach, they are south of L.A. and south of downtown. This car is heading due west.
Television broadcasting, it's hard to believe that something like this could happen where he is now running for his life here. He is a fugitive on the run. Authorities following him they believe he is in this vehicle right now on the West 91 near the 110 freeway. And it's interesting to note the time. This started apparently around 6:45, a little bit after the main part of rush hour. Authorities, though, are attempting to clear the freeway, although you can see a car right there going up right next to the Bronco. Not an easy job clearing the freeway. O.J. Simpson formally charged today with 2 counts of murder. He was supposed to surrender at 11 o'clock today. Basically, his attorney turned his back, and O.J. managed to get away. Get away,
apparently, with his good friend, Al Cowlings. Now, we have a little bit of an update. This is off the Associated Press wire, or excuse me, the Reuters wire. According to someone who is monitoring police scanners, the man in the car says he would not give himself up. He's in the back of the vehicle. He has a gun to his head, and he says he will hurt himself. He is demanding to be taken to his mother. Now, that apparently is information off a police scanner, according to the Reuters newswire. We continue to watch from Sky 11 this 1993 Ford Bronco. We do know that this is the vehicle that belongs to Al Cowlings, former pro football player himself, a longtime friend of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, when he was preparing to surrender this morning, to be picked up by LAPD and taken to Parker Center, wrote 3 notes, one to his mother, one to his family, and one that his attorney and a friend of his, a friend read this afternoon at the attorney's office in Century City. And to listen to that note, it sounded very much like a farewell goodbye from O.J. Simpson. Said that he basically thought he had done what was right all his life and wanted to be remembered for that. He asked the media to leave his kids alone and for all of us to remember him for what he had been.
He also proclaimed his innocence in that note. He said, quote, "First, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder." Went on to say, if we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Don't feel sorry for me. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I help yours. Peace and love, O.J. His attorney had said that he'd been extremely depressed. He was under the care of doctors. One friend is quoted as saying he had never seen O.J. Simpson so low.
The vehicle, we believe, with Al Cowlings and O.J. Simpson in it, and it looks like the emergency flashers are going on that Bronco. That's the first time we've had sort of this view of the vehicle. And It is going westbound again. It appears the way the sun is hitting the front of the vehicle, although it's a little bit difficult to tell because they have made a transition from one freeway to another. And there you see just a huge number of police cars, CHP, Orange County Sheriff, LAPD, presumably Los Angeles County Police Department as well as LA County Sheriff's cars, all a respectful distance behind, just waiting, hopefully, for this to play itself out peacefully without any further loss of life or any more damage and destruction. On the phone now we have psychiatrist Dr. Tom Linden. And Dr. Tom, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Chris.
At this point, we have reports that O.J. Simpson is in this vehicle. One report says he has a gun pointed to his head, says he will not be taken alive, and wants to be taken to see his mother. At this point, what would you deduce psychiatrically from those comments?
Well, I can't obviously get inside O.J. Simpson's mind right now, but judging from other experiences with suicidal people, number one, he has to be taken very, very seriously. Number two, quite often people who are suicidal at that time are also potentially homicidal. And that's something that the police are very well aware of, and anyone who would be negotiating with O.J. Simpson would have to be aware of that as well. So he's not only a risk to himself at this moment, he is a risk to other people as well.
We have heard, you know, in movies and on television and so on for years that when a potentially suicidal person calls someone, either on the phone or says it face-to-face, that he or she is considering suicide, that in by itself is a call for help. Would you consider these 911 calls talking about what O.J. is thinking of doing to be a call for help as opposed to a serious suicidal person?
Well, I don't see the difference. Somebody who's seriously suicidal often is calling for help at the same time. It's clear to me that he's desperate for help right now, but a person in a suicidal situation is in a very, between a rock and a hard place. One part of himself may be wanting to kill himself, the other part very much may want to live. And so it's the job of negotiators. I'm sure there's probably a police psychiatrist who may be patched through to him. It's their job to try to appeal to that part of O.J. that wants to live, to surrender himself as peacefully as possible.
Obviously, the thinking then is not rational whatsoever. He is apparently with one of his best friends, but still in the state of mind that we can guess that he might be in. He can't be thinking too rationally. Is that correct?
Well, people who are acutely suicidal do not act rationally. So the point in the idea in dealing with acutely suicidal people is to get them in safe hands so that they don't do anything that obviously could not be undone. If you make an attempt on your life, you're not in...
Mother and his children are still sealed and will be delivered to them. But while his lawyer said he was never concerned that he might run, they did believe and interpreted the letter to the general public, which many of you heard on the news tonight, was a suicide note. He's never been given, apparently, in this entire week any particular clue to the status of his case, according to the lawyer. They thought it might take a week for Los Angeles Police Department to process the evidence which they had gained, and it was his lawyer who earlier today had to go to him and say that he was going to be charged with these 2 counts of murder with special circumstances, which of course make him eligible for the death penalty in California. This is the first time we've seen him quite as close to other traffic as this, but it is clear that that other driver knows something's going on. And Judy, if I'm not mistaken, they have sped up somewhat.
They have. In fact, he's sped up considerably. The CHP cars are really racing now to catch up as he weaves through traffic. I don't know why he sped up, but you can see that it's really picked up. He was going from between 35 and 50 miles per hour before, and I would say he's going considerably faster than that now. He's in the left lane. Not that it matters, but that is where one tends to go fastest. I just can't imagine how this will play out, because he's really he appears to be at the end of his rope, which you mentioned in the tone of the letters, seeing no way out. and yet he's got his friend involved in this, a friend who's driving, so he wouldn't want to endanger him. It's really complicated.
It may be, Judy, that O.J. Simpson is not in charge. I keep thinking of the debilitated status which his lawyer described him in, which his doctors had described him in, and it's quite possible that Al Cowlings, this longtime friend of his, may indeed have moved on his behalf. So I say it's difficult to know.
Yes, he was heavily sedated, apparently, earlier today when he learned of this, and his lawyer described him as really in despair. Wailing is the word he used before he disappeared. So he is in great distress, obviously. And it's been a long day, for both men, I'm sure.
It's about 7:30 in California at this particular moment, little after 7:30 California time in Los Angeles. It's interesting looking at some of the reports coming in. People have actually along the side of the road waved to him apparently as he's gone by, and it's a reminder that all across the country people have been stricken, first of all, of course, by the murders of O.J.'s former wife and young man who'd gone, you'll recall, according to the earlier reports, to deliver her glasses to her, which she had left in a restaurant. But also because O.J. Simpson is held in such esteem by so many people in the country, one of the truly great football players, one of the people to whom so many young people have looked up, a man who has so often seemed, or so continuously seemed to have led pretty much an exemplary life. He did point out in this letter to the public earlier this evening that the press had got it all wrong. He tried to explain that he and Nicole, his wife, had had a marriage with its ups and downs. No mention in his letter of what had drawn many people's attention earlier today to his behavior, which was an
Millions of Americans have looked to O.J. as a hero, and when a hero is in trouble, it's very, very hard to accept, and I think that's probably the feeling of a lot of people. It's certainly my feeling.
Dr. Linden, let us give our viewers some more information. We understand the vehicle is traveling northbound on the 405 near the LAX area, south of LAX. Traveling northbound, interesting to note, that would be toward the Brentwood area. That is where O.J. Simpson lives. That is near the location where the murders took place. Again, the vehicle has moved now from the 91 freeway to the 405. Before that, it was on the I-5 freeway. So they've covered quite a bit of distance here.
Christine, in that last close-up we had, it appeared that, although we had the one report that O.J. Simpson was in the back seat of that Ford Bronco, it looked as if in the last close-up we had of the passenger side that there was a person in the front passenger seat. Obviously somebody's driving it, but a person in the right front seat as well.
Right, you can see perhaps it looks like maybe a shoulder there or the seat there in that close-up shot of the Bronco. We should point out there are a convoy of officers that have been following this vehicle since it hit the freeways at about 6:45. That's when they spotted the vehicle. Among the people traveling in these vehicles is a top law enforcement hostage negotiator, part of the convoy trailing this Bronco. There are reports the authorities were trying to phone the Bronco, but they were getting no response. We do know there is a car phone in that vehicle because some calls had been made, and that is one way authorities were able to locate the vehicle, and they have confirmed this is a vehicle belonging to O.J. Simpson's former teammate, Al Cowlings.
And indeed, the cellular phone call at about 6:30 was what did trigger it. Because of technology, they knew that, number one, they knew that this was a vehicle that O.J. Simpson possibly was in, because it does belong to Al Cowlings, and he and Al Cowlings disappeared from another Simpson friend's home in the San Fernando Valley this morning. The attorney and a psychiatrist that had been dealing with O.J. Simpson since Monday and some police officers were on one part of this friend's home, and they went to tell O.J. that the police were here to put him in handcuffs and take him to Parker Center, and they discovered that O.J. Simpson and Al Cowlings were gone. And that was now about 8 hours ago. As we continue to watch this Ford Bronco going north on the 405, and it was a phone call because they knew the cellular phone that went with that vehicle, a phone call at about 6:30 that triggered the search. It began in Orange County, a phone call made on the cellular phone from Al Cowlings' Bronco. Since then, there's been at least one call to 911 in which the person on the phone said that O.J. Simpson had a gun to his head and wanted to be taken to see his mother. Now, it's quite
but nothing quite to match this one. The police, obviously, for the moment, don't know exactly what to do, so they are playing it cautiously. Give the police department credit. They said this afternoon when they said O.J. Simpson was a fugitive, they said, we are searching for him and we will find him. And they have found him. They now have him in plain sight, in view, and they have had for many minutes here now. Whether O.J. Simpson is having his friend drive him to his mother's house has not been confirmed, but it's one of the possibilities that has been raised.
It's 7:30 p.m. Out there in Los Angeles.
Right toward the Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, Brentwood areas, where O.J. lives and where the two people killed also lived. There's the Ford Bronco. O.J. reported in the back. There apparently appears to be something in the front as well. There's something appears sticking out of the right-hand side of that car. And again, they're losing the picture a little. Is LAX. In fact, you see a plane landing at LAX. And I don't know what that is. That must be, that's part of the chopper. As the LA airport, one of the busiest in the world. 405 freeway is the freeway closest to the airport, runs north and south.
The woman who, when O.J. had beaten up his wife, she was the Los Angeles deputy city attorney who investigated the case. And evidently, Mrs. Simpson had been very badly beaten, and it was Mrs. Bowman's feeling, perhaps, that the government had been too lenient with him at that time. Furthermore, Dr. Susan Forward had been visited by Nicole Simpson after this incident, and was described by Dr. Forward as a typical case of a battered wife. And physically. We also earlier talked to the district attorney who said that the fact that O.J. Simpson was attempting to flee would make a difference if and when he is captured, and that what made them finally decide to arrest him was the scientific, what he called the scientific evidence of the blood.
Yes. Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, it's been pointed out earlier today by an athlete that in the violent game of football, that O.J. was relatively nonviolent. And you wonder, could his personal life have been so different from his professional sport?
Many people are different in their emotional relationships than they are on the job. Now, the fact that O.J. Simpson and his wife had those difficulties in the past doesn't necessarily mean that he did murder her. Also, we talked to Mrs. Bruce Jenner, Chris Jenner, who is an extremely...
Hairs, fibers, blood stains.
For the defense, right?
Well, he hadn't been arrested yet. In order to make sure that nothing was overlooked, because O.J. Simpson wanted to find out who really killed his wife. And whatever that is, his lawyer, he hadn't been arrested yet, had wanted to make sure that nothing was overlooked. Mm-hmm. And we were there to collect evidence, to go over what had been done.
As he says in his own letter, and as he said to you, he never admitted killing, right?
Well, certainly not to me. He seemed to be bewildered, Larry, as to why people were so felt he had killed his family when he was bereaved and very upset at what had happened.
Do you think
and he couldn't quite understand why suspicion was pointing to him.
The L.A. police would have allowed you to cooperate with them?
Well, Bob Shapiro was in the process of doing that, yes. Both Henry and I have worked with the L.A. police in the past, and with Gil Garcetti in the district attorney's office. And what we were doing, he hadn't been charged with anything. Once he was charged, then we...
And Connie, those who knew O.J. Simpson best would never have believed that he would be, if anything, he would not be a coward, that he wouldn't run.
And I don't know that necessarily we can perceive it as a cowardly act. It may be very well a man who is so desperate at this point, confused, so depressed, and suicidal as described by his lawyer through his doctors.
Excuse me for one moment, but Bob Kerr, the reporter you know so well and have worked with, has some narration from the description, eyewitness description of the helicopter. Let's pick that up.
They thought that O.J. was going to visit the grave of Nicole Simpson, so sheriff's deputies from Orange County staked out the cemetery, and indeed, Mr. Simpson was within a mile of the cemetery where his ex-wife plot is, and they were able to finally locate the vehicle after a cellular phone call was made at about 5:51, we believe. At that point, they were able to home in on the vehicle and found it on the North 5. They immediately called in more backup units and were able to shut down most of the freeway behind Mr. Simpson's vehicle. And because of the slow speeds, the traffic ahead of the vehicle was able to clear out. However, with the transmissions on radio and on television, literally thousands of people now are pulling over on the side of the freeway to take a look at this, to show support, to wave at Mr. Simpson. We're now crossing over Venice Boulevard, 405 freeway, northbound. And as we look down there, I'm going to use a pair of binoculars and try to determine whether or not I can see Mr. Simpson at this point. At one point, law enforcement officers allowed us to drop down to about 40 feet, and we were able to use our camera and look inside. We're simulcasting this on KNX radio and on Channel 2 and showing some live pictures. I'm looking inside the white Bronco through my binoculars, and it appears as though Mr. Simpson's still in the back seat with his very close friend AC at the wheel. Speeds now appear to be about 40 to 45 miles an hour. 18 highway patrol units behind. And as the sun is setting here in West Los Angeles, it may become a little easier to see inside.
I think he's aware of a lot, since actually Jim Hill...
Extraordinary.
Ground level shot there, and you can hear people cheering from the sideline.
It's very bizarre. A bizarre set of circumstances here. People lined up on the side.
Depression, obviously. And also has said that he'll take his own life, and has also used the gun to hold the gun against his head, and has threatened his own life, and officers do not want to see that. If you are listening to this broadcast, O.J., there's a lot of people that look up to you and are pulling for you and want you to pull over and give yourself up. And we've seen that today with literally thousands of people now having pulled over on the side of the freeways. We're now coming up 405 freeway northbound, coming up on the Santa Monica freeway. Given the position of the white Bronco...
With location, and possibly that could be a termination point.
It does look like he's going past the 10 turnoff, doesn't it?
Yes, currently at the interchange at this time, and he's continuing northbound on the 405.
Okay, now, if I'm just making a guess here, he's either going to turn off at Waterford or at Sunset Boulevard. It's possible to go to the next turnoff and then double back to get to Sunset. But
yeah, he's right in front of me.
Craig, do you see any blockades on those off-ramps up ahead?
Unfortunately, I don't see anything like that. It looks pretty smooth sailing up the 405. I don't believe there is any roadblocks up ahead.
Okay, I didn't mean across the freeway. I meant on the off-ramps. Of course, that may be a little bit out of your sight. It'll probably come into your view within the next 60 seconds or so.
Yes, the off-ramps are quite blocked. It appears that a good number of people are pulled on the right shoulder and are out of their vehicles watching this procession proceed up the 405 freeway here. It's in this area, it's becoming more prevalent that people are stopped alongside the road and are watching this as it passes them by.
What off-ramp are you coming up on now? You should be approaching pretty close to Wilshire Boulevard, aren't you?
Coming up on Santa Monica Boulevard at this time.
Right.
And that off-ramp is not blocked. And the vehicle is still in the far left lane,
right, so
continuing northbound.
Let's mention to our viewers that there are only 3 off-ramps now remaining if he's going to go to that Brentwood estate. There's the one coming up on Wilshire, which are probably approaching now.
That's affirmative, Hal.
Okay, and then right after that, probably another 30 to 40 seconds, you'll be at Waterford. We'll see if he turns off on Waterford, but he's in the left lane.
Yes, left lane, currently left lane. You can see other traffic there with the vehicle. The left lane and other traffic are pulling off to the right shoulder at this time, ahead of the vehicle.
Okay, now it's crucial to see if he starts moving over to the right lane.
It doesn't appear that will be the case due to the number of vehicles blocking the right lanes.
Craig, Eric Spillman is right there at the intersection of Sunset and the 405. Eric, can you read us? Go ahead and tell us what you see.
Well, first of all, we're just coming up. We're going north on the 405. We're coming to Sunset Boulevard right now. And I can tell you that I've seen CHP officers stopping people from getting onto the 405. The southbound 405, as you know, is a parking lot with everybody stopped and out of the cars looking, waiting for this chase to come. But the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp is open, and it appears that they think that he might get off here. The whole way going north along the 405, it is an amazing sight. Along the right-hand shoulder, people have pulled over, many of them carrying signs such as signs reading things like "Save the Juice," "Go OJ." People are literally cheering him on as he travels northbound on the 405, and we can only assume that he plans to get off at Sunset and go towards perhaps his home.
All right, now, Eric, do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we have been speculating that he would get off on Sunset. He must be approaching you right now. He is still in the far left lane. We'll let you know if he starts moving over into the right lane. Now, remember, there's an exit on that freeway right past Sunset Boulevard. I believe it's Moraga Drive.
There is. When you come to the Sunset Boulevard overpass over the 405, it is crowded with people who are outside on the bridge.
He's moving over now, Eric. He's moving over to the right, which means he may take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. He's now moving over to the right lane.
Go, follow.
Craig, are we approaching Sunset Boulevard now?
Yes, we are now.
Okay, we're approaching Sunset Boulevard.
There's a crowd of people who are...
Extraordinary scene on the freeways. Williams says that O.J. Simpson, and I quote now, demanded that he would not give himself up. Williams, monitoring police scanners, said that Simpson is in the back of the vehicle. And
It's at Sunset, and possibly here will be a westbound turn en route to Brentwood.
That's right.
It looks like he's in the left lane now.
Yeah.
Making a left turn. The intersection's free, and he's clear, and now making his left turn westbound on Sunset.
All right. He must have gone right by you, Eric.
Well, he hasn't. We're staying ahead of it. We're going to his mansion, believing that he's going there, but it was an amazing situation on that overpass there. There were people running around on top of there. I don't know how he's going to be able to drive through all those people. All along Sunset Boulevard, there are people stopped as well ahead of the chase. We can only assume he's going to his home on Rockingham in Brentwood.
Okay, Eric, that's exactly what had happened. He did take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp, as we had speculated, and now he is proceeding west on Sunset Boulevard. He just went past Woodburn and will be approaching Barrington Avenue.
And there's a red light at Barrington. There are lights on this. I don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to respond to traffic lights. He hasn't had to cope with that, but there's quite a lot of traffic lights. We're hearing the sirens behind us now. He's right behind us. We're hearing the sirens. The police have their sirens on. Both sides of the street have pedestrians.
All right,
They've just passed us at Barrington.
He just went past Barrington.
Just passed us at Barrington, followed by the sheriffs. They're Orange County Sheriff, Santa Ana police officers who are in pursuit.
Okay, Eric, it's only now probably 3 minutes at the most, I would say, to his home in Brentwood.
That's right. His home west of the 405 on a street called Rockingham.
Right.
He will have to make a right turn onto Rockingham, and that is where his mansion is. It looks like there's at least 10, well, maybe not 10, but 7 or 8 Santa Ana police, Orange County sheriffs, and highway patrol officers following him, as well as regular private citizens on motorcycles who are following this chase now. And we're right behind him.
Now, how far behind the Bronco are you, Eric?
I'd say we're less than a mile behind.
Okay.
What's going to happen is that street, Rockingham, is a very, very narrow street. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work when he tries to make that right turn onto Rockingham and go up towards his mansion. The mansion itself is about a mile or so up Rockingham on the right-hand side.
We're going to be coming up on Rockingham, and that is Mr. Simpson's home street. I don't know if he's returning back to his home. I'm not sure at this point. We're monitoring the situation. He is now making a turn on Bristol Court. Bristol Court is the back way into Rockingham. Back way into Rockingham. We've just passed Mayor Reardon's residence. We have just passed Mayor Reardon's residence. We are north on Bristol Court, a Los Angeles Police Air Unit, now involved in the pursuit. It appears as though we are following Mr. Simpson back to his home. He lives at Ashford and Rockingham, a quarter mile from where I live, here in Brentwood. Can we drop? Okay, we can go down. Making a left turn on Ashford. Left turn in Ashford. He's going to run into a bunch of news crews standing by at his home. There are Los Angeles police units standing by there as well. This is insane. I've never seen anything like this. Mr. Simpson, O.J., please. He's now pulling into his residence.
Simpson has just pulled up. The Simpson followed by a huge convoy of police officers.
This is live coverage from O.J. Simpson's home. He's...
Oh.
O.J. Simpson arrested.
Yeah.
What apparently just happened, O.J. Simpson got out of the car. Certainly
He shook
someone
his
did.
left hand at something.
The police moved in and hustled that person inside the house. There's no way to be absolutely positive that was O.J. Simpson, but it certainly looked for all the world like him.
And the police grabbed him, one on each arm. We have not seen his friend Al Cowlings, who reportedly was driving that Ford Bronco. Presumably he is still in that car. I can see something moving inside the Bronco.
So it could have been Cowlings who was taken inside the house. Could have been. Let's just pick up the natural sound and let it play for a moment to see what happens. This is live coverage.
All right.
Someone is still in the Ford Bronco just in front of this police car. Someone was taken out of the Bronco and hustled inside the house. Nobody knows whether that was O.J. Simpson or his friend Cowlings who had been driving the car.
Began at the burial site, near the burial site of Nicole Simpson. Has ended here where it all began, on Rockingham. In 1991, there were reports from officers that O.J. had been involved in beatings with his wife. In 92, yes? Go ahead, Andrew. Yes. Yes. No. It's a standoff. It's a standoff, and what we're seeing here.
The belief now runs strong that the police believe O.J. Simpson is still in the car, and that it was his friend Cowlings who was taking the man in the white T-shirt and hustled back into the house.
It would seem so.
We do not know any of these things. We're working on simply looking at what you...
Around the vehicle. However, that's not to say they could be close proximity to the house and the vehicle around the grounds.
Craig, let me recommend that we stay right on your position there, because I have a feeling that the car didn't just drive in there to sit there, that something is happening right now. I would suspect there's some kind of communication, cellular communication between cell phone and either the House or law enforcement in that area. Some kind of negotiation must be going on.
Yeah, I would assume that that would be a good analysis of the situation. Here right now, it appears that to resolve this this possible conflict here, that communication would take place, so everybody would know what was going on, so there would be no unexpected surprises to cause some problems.
Yeah, we don't want to just guess at what might happen, because we don't know any more than the viewers who are watching with us or than you do sitting up there. And I think the best thing we can do is just watch and wait and hope that this is resolved with peaceful resolution.
Hal, we just got some information over our radio. The police helicopter is requesting us to gain an altitude because of the number of helicopters over the scene here is interfering with voice communications with the vehicle, and there appears to be negotiations going on from the vehicle with either obviously I would speculate a cellular phone, as you mentioned earlier.
Right. Okay, well, if you can gain altitude, we certainly want to cooperate in that respect, not endanger anybody. And as we say, we hope that this will end peaceably, but we'll see.